Yo, what is up guys? It is Samool back again with another Epic 7 tier list for you guys, and today we are going to be ranking all of the Wyvern DPS units you can use in the game and how they compare against each other. Now before I get started with this tier list guys, if you guys aren't already subscribed to my channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to actually get updates when my videos release, and also get updates when I do my live streams, because I am doing a lot of live streams nowadays. I have a free-to-play 3-star only challenge going on right now, which is really fun, and I really like doing it with you guys, and I hope to see you guys there and see some new faces. Also, if you guys are wondering where I play Epic 7 on my computer, I'm using it on Bluestacks, and if you guys are interested in that, you guys can use my referral code down below, and you guys can start playing on your computer as well. Bluestacks is, in my opinion, one of the best emulators on the market right now, and it's completely free to play. Now that being said, yeah, this tier list is for DPS units only for Wyvern 13. I'm going to be considering Wyvern 13 only because that should be your endgame goal for Wyvern. And yeah, basically, you know, you can always mix and match units, but ideally you want to have at least 1 or 2 S tier units and your team should be fine no matter what. But yeah, basically decided to rank these for you guys, and left to right is going to be strongest to weakest in my opinion. And keep in mind that this is my opinion and what I've seen in, you know, other accounts using what units for Wyvern, what I've seen how they've done and how fast they can clear as well, and also like kind of their investment to, you know, reward ratio. Now starting at the top of S tier, we have at number 1, should be no surprise, it is Sigrid. Now with the addition of Mewi, people might say that Mewi is better, but I personally think Sigrid is still better. She has more consistent debuffing and more damage, and she's a very strong unit. You definitely want to pick her up from your selective summon. If you haven't, if you're considering playing the game and you're re-rolling, make sure you get Sigrid. She'll make your account progress like 5 times faster. She's so OP in Wyvern. She has way too many debuffs for a unit to have in Wyvern, and she does way too much damage for a unit that has so many debuffs. She's also waifu as Hex. You want to pick her up. She's very strong. Next we have Mewi. So Mewi is the newest addition. He just got released like a month ago. My other tier list that I made actually was released like a few days before Mewi came out. But Mewi is super strong. He's a 3-star and he's pretty easy to get. You just have to summon a bit and you'll eventually get him. He has an AoE defense break, which is really nice for the first wave. He also has bleeds, and he has a special mechanic where if everyone is ice on his team, ice element, if the frontline unit gets attacked, you get CR push. Now this is really OP in Wyvern 13 because Wyvern attacks 3 times every turn, so you're getting a ton of CR push. He will really lower the speed requirements of your team. So I really recommend using him if you have him, and if you don't have him yet, you know, you'll get him eventually and you can slot him in whenever. He works well at 5 stars, level 50. Very powerful unit, drops the speed requirement of your team, has a lot of debuffs, and also has a nice defense break, although I wouldn't rely on the defense break too much because it's not 100%. Next we have Furious. So Furious used to be number 2 on this list, but I think he's number 3 now with the release of Mewi. Furious is still very powerful. In fact, I would recommend, if you can, to run Sigrid, Mewi, Furious if you have all 3 units. If you pulled Sigrid from your selective summon, you should be able to run this team because Furious is free from connections, and Mewi is a 3-star unit, which you should be able to pull. But yeah, Furious is very strong. He has a crit chance buff for your team, 50% crit chance, so if you run Mewi and Furious, your crit chance, gear requirements go down to 35%, and your speed requirements go down to like 140. So the gear is super easy to, it's really easy to gear your Wyvern team because all you really need is damage and effectiveness at that point. And Furious also has a 100% defense break, which can, you know, always get resisted by 15%. But it basically makes it so if he's the fastest on your team, he has perma crit chance up for your team, and also has perma defense break on the boss, barring he doesn't get resisted. Very powerful. If you don't have a consistent defense breaker on your team, make sure you run Furious. He's by far the best defense breaker in the game for Wyvern. Very powerful, and he's free to play to boot. Next we have Clarissa. So Clarissa is also S tier. She's a very good Sigrid counter. I don't really recommend running Clarissa if you have Sigrid nowadays because you can always just run Mewi and Furious alongside Sigrid now. If you don't have Sigrid though, Clarissa, Mewi, and Furious is a very good team comp as well. If you guys don't want to use Mewi for some reason, you can always use Sigrid, Furious, Clarissa as well. But yeah, Clarissa, very good in regular Wyvern, also very good in one-shot. She's a good first wave one-shotter. So if you build her, it's not like you'll stop using her after you build your one-shot Wyvern team. You can use her there as your AoE damage dealer, and she's a very good substitute for SSB in that role for the one-shot team. Next we have Seaside Polona. So Seaside Polona is still very strong. She has a target on her S1, she has defense break, and she has a lot of debuffs. The only thing is it's hard to slot her in nowadays because, like I said, Sigrid, Mewi, Furious, it's really hard to slot them in. Those are like the big 3 for Wyvern in my opinion, but SSB is very good. If you want to run her instead of Furious, right, it's fine. If you want to boost your crit chance up, she's very strong on the first wave. If you run Mewi at the fastest and SSB the second fastest, you can one-shot the first wave technically and then do the boss normally, and it's a very fast run. Next we have Alexa. So Alexa is very good as well. If you don't have Sigurd or Clarissa, you can always run Alexa instead, and you can run Alexa Mewi Furious, very strong trio. Alexa does the most damage in the game to Wyvern. It's just that she doesn't do that many debuffs, but yeah, very, very high damage. She really abuses the fact that Daydream Joker is in the game. She can use it twice every turn, because when you crit, you know, you attack twice with Alexa. Now we're going into A tier. So honestly, S tier to A tier is a big drop off, and you're going to see like A tier to B tier and so forth is a huge drop off as well. But at the top of A tier, we have Taran Guard. So before Furious came out, he was the top defense breaker for Wyvern. He's really nice because he has a higher chance for dual attacks as well. The only thing is, yeah, there's no need to take him because Furious is free to play, and you can just literally just bring Furious because you can get him from connections. Next we have Karin. I know a lot of people like using Karin, especially if they don't have Sigurd or Clarissa, they try using Karin instead of Alexa. Karin's okay, but I think Alexa is better because 1, Alexa doesn't cost Mola, and 2, Alexa does more damage, in my opinion. But Karin, if you really like her and her skin, then yeah, be my guess, you can use her. She's also good in Wyvern one-shot, so you can actually get some return back on your investment. Next we have Luluca. So Luluca's okay as well. She kind of works kind of like Taran Guard, which is a chance to defense break on her S1. You're most likely going to run her with skills off as well, but if your team is struggling to survive Wyvern's hits, you can actually turn her with skills on, and her S2 is actually really nice with that defense buff and that barrier. I just don't recommend her because her damage isn't that great and there's just better options. And now we're going to B tier, so I'm just going to kind of skim through everything from B to D tier because honestly you should try to avoid these units. But yeah, Misty Chain is probably the one exception. She's actually pretty decent. She has a lot of debuffs. The only thing is she does no damage, and her healing is pretty abysmal, even though her design is to kind of be like a damage dealing healer. Next we have Chloe. I know Chloe got buffed. I just personally don't think she's that great relatively to the other units. Honestly, she might be like bottom of A tier now. Maybe I should move her actually. I'll move her because she got buffed. But she's actually not bad for Wyvern. It's just that there's no reason to take her over the aforementioned units as well. But her damage is nice. The only problem is you have to speed tune her so her magic nail lands on Wyvern on the first turn of his turn, which can be annoying sometimes. Next we have Luna. So Luna is actually not bad as well. Honestly, maybe bottom of A tier as well. I know I'm adjusting it as I go, I apologize, but thinking about it, I think Luna is actually not bad. Her single target damage is pretty high, and she has another defense break, and she's easy to gear. The only thing is she has some RNG in her kit, which is kind of annoying. The RNG factor can actually mess with your first wave, and kind of mess up the turn cycling for your entire run. So that's why I don't really like her too much, but her damage is nice, and you can use her in other areas of content. Next we have Sez. So Sez, the only good thing about Sez is he has a perma debuff from his S1. That's pretty much it. His damage is pretty trash. Yeah, I don't recommend. Ran, more of a PvP unit. You shouldn't really use him in Wyvern because you want to build him for PvP, but he's technically usable with his attack buff, and his immunity buff, I guess, can help with, I guess immunity doesn't really matter here, but yeah, attack buff is nice, and his damage is actually not bad if you build him super fast. The only thing is if you're using Ran and Wyvern as a damage dealer, you're probably late game anyways, and you already have a Wyvern one-shot team, but yeah, Ran is okay. Yuna, a lot of AoE damage, just not, too strong. She does have some attack buff and speed buff, which is nice, but it doesn't give her an extra turn, which is kind of wonky. But yeah, she has a lot of AoE, but the damage is pretty low, so I don't really recommend her. She's good at clearing the first wave, but that's pretty much it. Kise, so Kise does a lot of single target damage, similar to Luna, but she doesn't have like a defense break, and her kit is more built for PvP. I don't recommend using her. Also, her animations are super long, so your runs will take longer. Dizzy, she has a lot of debuffs, but her damage is trash. I don't recommend using her either. Cerise, in C tier, we have her S3's debuffs don't work on Wyvern, so I don't recommend her either. She's okay because you can spam her with S1 and get a lot of dual attacks, but yeah, not really recommended in my opinion. Ian has target, not recommended either. Doesn't do a lot of damage. A lot of the 3-star units that aren't specialty changed besides Alexa will do like 0 damage because they have low base stats. Batiste used to be like A tier in my opinion, but ever since Mewi got released, you need to run a full ice team, so you can't run Mewi if you run Batiste. He's okay if you run General Purchase though. He does have a attack down buff, which is nice for helping your tank survive if you're really struggling. But keep in mind he's a dark unit, not ice, so the Wyvern boss will be pushed up every time he takes a turn. Muse Rima has a lot of utility, but very, very trash damage. And then in D tier guys, they're pretty much all the same. They're just all bad. I'll go over one by one though if you guys are really curious. Jenna is just terrible damage. They really need to up her damage. She has some debuffs though, but her damage is terrible. Koli, also the same. Her damage is terrible. Dominion, she's actually good in PvP right now if you use her as a control unit, but besides that, for PvE, she doesn't supply enough debuffs to be useful. She has a lot of stuns, which don't work on bosses. Shu has a crit damage down buff for her team, but that gets stripped immediately from Wyvern unless you're running 200% effect resist on your tank, which you can, but yeah, it's a lot of setup to make use of Shu. buffs, and her damage is not that great. Fairytale Tenebria, yeah, her debuffs don't work on the boss, and then also her damage is trash. She has poison, which is okay, but the chance is too low for her to be good. Ada, she's actually good in cleave right now, but mostly suited for PvP. Her debuffs don't really work in PvE either because they're stuns. Serato, same thing, stuns, doesn't work, damage is pretty low. Enot has a defense break and some debuffs, but not that great in my opinion. The damage is also way too low, similar to Jenna. And then Roman, yeah, same thing, damage is too low, and the debuffs aren't that great. Now for the one-shot tier, we have Flan and Rem. So these two units are very good in one-shot. You can use them. The only thing is, yeah, in regular team comps, they won't be that great, so I don't recommend using them there. But if you're making a one-shot team, you can utilize these units for your DPS or, defense breaker, and they're very, very, very powerful. And that pretty much covers my Wyvern DPS tier list, guys. This is an update to my last video I released because Mewi got released. I'll be updating my other tier lists in the future as well, as the new units get released and buffs and nerfs happen. So make sure you guys are subscribed to see the updates to those tier lists, and I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel. We finally broke 10k subscribers, guys. We are so happy. And yeah, I'll see you guys next video, and thank you for the continued support. Peace.